4 games today in the WNBA as they take center stage. Time to break it all down here on the early line, Sirius XM Channel 159, and we are ready to go. It's Donnie and Ben. Now, we did talk about this, which I think is interesting. Yeah. The All-Star game is this weekend. I think it's going to be a great All-Star game and has a lot of storylines, which, again, around most All-Star games, you don't get these. There might be a rivalry that we take a look at that starts to breed, and maybe Angel Reese not going to the Olympics, and also Caitlin Clark can exact some revenge. But before we get there, there's a 4-game slate today, Ben, which does include an 11:30 a.m. tip, which nobody is going to get upset with that. That's the Phoenix Mercury and the Washington Mystics. If we take a look at that game, which, again, we'll get to next because we don't go in order here. We just go with the Sun and the Liberty. So let's start there. A 3.5-point favorite here for the Liberty, taking on the Sun, a 155 total. Out of sorts, out of order. We'll get to them all, regardless if a game is played at 11:30. We'll get to that one later because there's a game at 7 o'clock that we'd rather talk about now, BSS. Let's hit it.
So the reason I'm cracking up, a little bit of a peek behind the scenes, during our recent commercial break, our producer, Joe Frizo, said, all right, Donnie, let's have you host this segment, bring us back in from break. And Donnie said, why are we going out of order in terms of the chronological nature of this 4-game slate on a Tuesday with a couple of camp day spots as we saw a week ago? So for all of that to play out as it did was fantastic. Oftentimes, though, DRS, you got to start with the most noteworthy game. And when you have a matchup between the top 2 teams in the WNBA for the second time in the last week, that's where you begin. The New York Liberty, best record in all of the WNBA, 20-4. But Connecticut, after a blowout victory over Phoenix over the weekend, 96-69, off to an 8-5 start. That ties the best in franchise history. These 2 teams faced off last week during camp day at Mohegan Sun. That was an 11 a.m. Eastern time tip. And the New York Liberty won by 3, 71-68. Defense always first for Connecticut. It's why the total is 155 and a hook. In that game, though, DeWanna Bonner, 7 threes made for Connecticut. Keep an eye on her 3-point prop today, 1.5. 152 and a hook is that number as it continues to work its way down. The New York
BSS getting cut off here at this point. How about that? So all this WNBA talk, which is good. And that leads us into the next game, which is the Chicago Sky and the Las Vegas Aces. Taking a look at this game at the FanDuel Sportsbook overnight, a 13.5-point favorite for the Aces, rounding into form, like we said, 9-1 in their past 10 games in a total that's listed at 173. So we just previewed a game at 155. Now we're up to 173. The question in this game, probably not who's going to win, Aces or Sky, but do we get a new streak on the horizon here, Ben, for the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese?
I hate when I freeze in studio. Darn that Wi-Fi. My final point quickly about the Liberty and the Sun. 2 previous matchups, both in Connecticut, on the road for New York. This, the first one in Brooklyn, has been won by New York in that race for the number 1 overall seed in the WNBA in the top spot atop the table. New York, by the way, minus 310 to be that 1 seed. Now to Las Vegas tonight. The Aces, of course, in the return of Chelsea Gray, victorious in 10 of the 11 games Gray has been out there. They have looked like the 2-time reigning WNBA title winners. I don't expect that to stop tonight. I don't mind laying 13 against the Chicago Sky. Of course, the 15-game consecutive streak for Angel Reese coming to a close on Saturday against the New York Liberty. I think it's going to be tough sledding against the Las Vegas Aces as well. And if I was going to look for a double-double, it would be jaWilson. 13-point spread. Some of my favorite ways to approach Aces games this year, that is looking at a player performance double. jaWilson to get to 25 points, or jaWilson to record a double-double and a Vegas win. Just to highlight the point of how demanding and dominant jaWilson has been this year, minus 230 for Wilson to record a double-double and an Aces victory, to score 25 and a Las Vegas win. That's minus 172. Listen, I don't really mind just laying 13 points with Las Vegas. I don't mind betting jaWilson to get to 30 points at plus 136. Her points prop 27.5. It's been hard to hold her back from getting into the upper 20s. That's how I would approach this nightcap of the 4 games we have in the WNBA.
Tuesday afternoon action here, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start. Storm and Sparks, so technically out there on the West Coast, a 12:30 tip, which is nice to see. A 162.5 total in this game between the Storm and the Sparks, but a heavy favorite here. Overnight at 9.5, that's now dropped to 8.5 live as a favorite for the Storm. Easy victory for the Storm today might be on the horizon here, BSS.
Yeah, I would say so. You feel for the Sparks. They had the promising rookie in Cam Brink and Rickea Jackson, who has been great. She was the 4th overall selection in the WNBA draft. But, of course, Cam Brink out for the remainder of this season. From a points prop perspective, don't mind looking at Rickea Jackson. Her points props used to be around 9.5, 10.5. With the elevated workload, it's now 12 and a hook. But if you're talking Seattle, you start with Jewel Lloyd. You go to Nneka Ogwumike against her former team in the LA Sparks. Don't mind laying the number with Seattle on the road. Early start in Southern California for Camp Day, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time.
And how about that? 11:30 a.m. action. Just in a matter of moments, it feels like here. The Mercury and the Mystics, favorite here. 5 points as a road favorite for the Phoenix Mercury and Brittany Griner squad. 169 as a total. Any effects here with this early start between the Mercury and the Mystics?
Got me last week. I said take the over of the Sun and the Liberty in the game in Connecticut, tipping at 11 a.m. Eastern time. The Mercury, one of the worst defenses in the WNBA, allowed Connecticut, a defense-first team, to score 96 over the weekend in that blowout. On Camp Day for Phoenix last week, they scored 100 in an early start out in the desert. Today's total 169. Now, the Mystics, of course, the last winless team in the WNBA, off to an 0-12 start. But since that point, haven't been all that bad. 6-6. I expect this game to stay close to that number. But I'm going to look at a points prop. Kalia Copper for Phoenix. She has been lights out in the scoring department this year. 22.5 is her points prop. I would lean to the over, or maybe Kalia Copper in terms of her 3-point number, 1.5, although the juice pretty substantial at minus 188. I expect that game to be close in the nation's capital. Maybe the Mystics +5, or a look at the money line for the underdog Washington side as well. Some updated WNBA season-long odds like MVP and Rookie of the Year. Up next, you're on the early line. Just 2 more days of regular season action in the W before the All-Star and Olympic break comes our way beginning this weekend. 4 games on this Tuesday, a doubleheader on Wednesday as well, and then on Saturday night in Phoenix, Arizona, that WNBA All-Star game between Team USA and the WNBA All-Stars. So we're past the midway point of a 40-game regular season, but at that nearly month-long break, let's reset where the markets were and where they are currently. Still a tale of two if you look at the 2 best prices to win the WNBA championship. The 2-time reigning champs, that's Las Vegas, remain the favorites at +145, but after a shaky start to this season, they've moved back by nearly a $0.50. The Liberty, the best team in the WNBA, with a 20-4 record, have seen their price shorten from +230 to +170. But the main thing that stands out, DRS, when you look at those 6 best prices from the preseason to now, before the year got underway, only 2 teams with a 3-digit price, less than 10-1. Now 5 teams with a less than 10-1 number. Some more parity expected in that championship race in the WNBA, and I would have to agree.
No, it's good to see, too. Yes, and that's good for the game. You don't just want one team running away with, like, oh, what do you have to watch the rest of the season for? We talk about those upper echelon teams like the Aces and the Liberty, but also still fighting on the opposite echelon, those top 8s here to get into it. The Fever, the Sky, and some good young talent there. So I like the way it is, but also +145 and +170, that's great. So we're certainly, again, on a collision course between the Liberty and the Aces to play each other in the WNBA Finals. Like what I see so far. And again, it'll be interesting to see that they take a month off where that momentum comes back, because so many times when you're finally playing good basketball, and I talk about that with the Aces as they open up the season with a lot of question marks, like, ooh, maybe it's a hangover, maybe they're not ready for this. They're certainly ready for it now. Taking that month off, I bet you they wish they weren't taking any time off and can continue to roll.
The Aces, without their point guard in Chelsea Gray, got off to just a 6-6 start this year. More losses through that point than they had, or tied for the same amount of losses they had through the first 12 games through all 40 in the regular season a year ago. For a team that lost just a single game at home last year, they struggled a little bit early on in Las Vegas. But the Aces, the first two-time reigning back-to-back WNBA champs in the history of the league since the LA Sparks in the early 2000s. The Houston Comets won the first 4 WNBA titles from the league's inception in 1997 through the year 2000. The Aces trying to become the first 3-time repeat champion since that point in the late 90s into the early aughts. I think the best futures handicap I have ever had, after being spurned in many thought in terms of the WNBA MVP race a year ago, jaWilson, who won it 2 seasons prior in the WNBA, was telling you ahead of opening night, bet the number now while it's still plus money. It was even money, plus 100, maybe even plus 110 in the 48 hours prior to the WNBA season getting underway. jaWilson is now minus 3,000 as we approach that Olympic break.
Yeah, and I guess at this point, at minus 3,000, I don't even know if we're going to worry about like even injury if it crosses into the equation of a minus 3,000 price here for it to lay out. She's by far and away the best player in the WNBA, and also the chip on her shoulder from not getting it last year, and the voters understand that as well. It's a clear-cut favorite for jaWilson, minus 3,000. Sounds like a crazy price point at this point, but who is playing better than her? Absolutely nobody, and not even close in the WNBA right now.
Yeah, it's not close. Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun, somebody who can do it all, the most triple-doubles in the history of the WNBA, the only player that has more than 5, and she's got double digits of the 38 triple-doubles in the history of the W. She's close, I guess, at 85-1 with a plus in front, but jaWilson is winning this award at minus 3,000. Is the debate done now for NBA Rookie of the Year? Probably not from the narrative perspective. The odds makers would tell you it is. Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever, minus 1050. Listen, Angel Reese is a historic performer. Angel Reese, in pretty much every other year in the history of the WNBA, would be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. But Caitlin Clark is making history night in, night out as well. In my opinion, she has won the award already, and I believe the race is done.
And it is done. And the only way that Angel Reese was going to be able to catch Caitlin Clark or still be in that conversation for us was if that double-double streak continued here. We are live on the air on Saturday, and after that loss, that number jumped really high for Caitlin Clark because that was the avenue for success for Angel Reese. Now that's gone. It's Caitlin Clark's to win, and she'll win it.
Yeah, and Caitlin Clark during camp day, despite a loss to Washington last week, putting up a historic stat line we had never seen in professional basketball, NBA or W included.